Wonderful to be here. I ask your permission to talk about something that continue with what we discussed on Sunday, a little bit about my experience. I thought it was a wonderful thing what you said on Sunday. I talked about my psychological suffering and how my psychological suffering has created this world in which I interpret things that happen according to the past, and kind of as an overlay that whatever the world is an open book, a coloring book, and I add all the colors of the past project them onto the present. And so sati, mindfulness, is that ability to see the present as the present, have it be the present, not superimposing or seeing Mara in a way, Mara that seduces you to recreate this dream and impose this dream of the past onto the present. And it's an extraordinary thing to see that this huge world that is, or this small world that is created by our little self, that it's just a little world, that it is really the prison that we live in rather than the world or the truth or the reality or the Dharma. And a lot of the realization of that comes from being mindful and comes from the awareness that we have in our body, and so that we find our belonging in this moment, and that we can have a moment of rest for the mind, and then some insight can happen or some wisdom can be there that shines a light on this psychological process of all the unconscious information that we add on to our experience. And so practicing this mindfulness game, coming back and coming back and coming back, is leading to some insight that we cannot predict or cannot grasp or cannot hope for or want to or find an explanation for, but it just happens by the grace of letting go, of not working the mind, not overworking the mind, not over exerting the mind to keep myself safe or to get what I want out of it or to make something different. For me, mostly to keep myself safe, meaning that no one's going to put one over on me. I'm right and you're wrong kind of a world, limiting world. I mentioned before that I had this great insight one day going with my friend Achanda to the eye doctor, and that we were walking into this office and it was kind of filthy, which is not what a doctor's office ought to be, and there were things on the floor. And Achanda just bent over and he picked something up, and then he looked for a garbage container and he put it there. And I had this flash of, I wouldn't do that. I am, this is their job. And I just suddenly saw that that's the wall that I create. This wall of my own small self, of my importance, that's below me, and I kind of got why, maybe enlightenment is not so attractive. Maybe then I'll have to pick up everything. So that was kind of a cone for me, a sudden realization that I lived in this very small world protecting this imaginary thing, and Achanda had the whole world. So I think that this involuntary thought, this unintentional thought that pop in, they are a form of Mara. They are a form of retelling the past in the present. They're making this a dream world. They're making this appear as if we recognize it. They're making this appear as if we already know it and we're not going to be fooled by it. And we're going to have to do something about it. And so we protect ourselves from it, as if it is out there and, we have something here that needs protection. Suffering is so... I think we need to see the psychological suffering not so much in the detail and the content of this happened to me, and that happened, or this was done, but as a way to recognize how we get swept up in that projection, in that relationship where there is this small me to protect, and there's the world out there that is not, that doesn't belong together. That, you are definitely you out there, and I am definitely me out here, and we're separate, and we are, and of course biologically we are separate in different skins, but you are very much this moment. You're very much this presence, which is all what I am. And our minds can get very caught up in this psychological reckoning and recognizing and self-analysis and saying, oh, this is how I'm caught and all that. And that has, I think, only it's very limited in its outcome when we hang it on the content of what happened, when we hang it on the story and saying and repeat the story over and over and analyze, oh, this is because of that. And then it's really good to step into what you said, this non-conceptual world, which is free from thought and free from analysis. And I think we need some of both to recognize things as they are, we need to understand how we dream something on top of it, how we are adding layers, how we are adding our dream world onto this present world. So to be aware of the present experience of this sensation is a way of dismantling the whole structure, is a way of dismantling the interpreting, analyzing, logical mind. This, what's this going to do for me? That's a head speak from the outside, whereas this is just the touch of this sensation, and so there is this freedom of that sati gives us by not elaborating, by not concocting, and I'm sounding like a lot of concocting here, but this process of Dharma changing and not taking ourselves as a fixed entity. Buddha says, I think about there's a sutta where the words are, look at this little pond or little puddle where fish are drowning in there. The puddle gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're drowning in their sense of me and sense of self. And I think we can drown in our sense of self and make it so important. And if I'm really the prisoner of this, the prison guard of this, well, then I better meet that self in order to let it go. But we need to do meet and greet, I think. So that's kind of my thoughts at this moment that I wanted to share, and I hope, yeah, Elisa.
Right now, when we've been talking, I see you as a very young man, perhaps we would say a boy, with your sort of downy hair and
once there was hair.
Vulnerability, and it just touches me very much. I just, you could, say all these things, but, there you are.
Well, thank you.
You look like a lovely little boy. This is not, from up top. It's just like very heartfelt. I'm sure you weren't expecting this.
No, I was a little rageaholic. Yeah, I think we need to. I think that child, that little Buddha child, is in all of us, right? And we need to find that.
Not always shown that, but you're showing it today.
Mm-hmm.
At least to me.
Thank you. Say hi.
Yeah, I have a little story to tell which bears on what you were talking about. And sometimes that vulnerability can be subject to psychological manipulation. What happened to me once in a church in Pennsylvania is that I didn't have anywhere to stay, so the priest called in a social worker And it was clear from the beginning she didn't want to be there. She was just there to please the priest. And so what she said to me right off the bat is, well, you've had some trauma in your life, so you will always be triggered to think that people are betraying you or failing you when they're really not. And that was her out to do absolutely nothing that she promised. I never heard from her again. So we call this gaslighting. It's a kind of psychological manipulation because she could say, see, it's not me, it's just your interpretation, it's just your perception. So it's not always what you're talking about. People can sense that you are vulnerable and take advantage of it.
I think we can, we tend to do that, to get out of something or to not have to face something, or because we have an important appointment, you know, and we do not take in the suffering of ourselves, our own suffering, or suffering of another.
Right.
But I think it's an interesting question, this, the responsibility and responsibility. You are responsible for your own right. And if we use that as a wall to say, I'm not responsible for you, it's a lie. We're responsible for every living being that comes. We're responsible whether we're gonna hit the mosquito on our, it's a choice, or it's a reaction. We have agency, and now we can put labels on that and say, this is bad, or we can say, I'm not going to scratch for the coming week because I've been bitten, and and both are choices, and I can't say what is the better choice, but we better be aware of that. We are in this constant interaction and play, where if you go hungry, that concerns me, and that is not something that I can just walk past. If I have food.
Well, what she was doing is commonly referred to as gaslighting.
Okay.
We call it gaslighting when we try to persuade the other person they're crazy.
Yeah. I always think I'm crazy. I'm the crazy one.
Well, anyway, but we don't have agency over everything. Car comes around the corner and kills us. We didn't cause that.
No, we didn't cause it, but we were there, and we got killed. So in some way, we have very limited abilities to see everything and to protect ourselves from everything. Right. And but we think of responsibility as a when I was in America and my brother was killed, I was responsible for that because I made a story about that, and I hadn't warned him for going into a dangerous neighborhood. I hadn't made my point clear enough, and I was responsible. So responsible became guilt. And he was far away, and I was here, and there was no agency that I had. But I think we have boundaries. We have limited powers. We are not here forever. We can't change the world into a place of justice for everyone. We can do our little thing in our little place with our little abilities. And sometimes my tendency is to walk away from it because I can't handle it. It's overwhelming me, and I say, no, I protect my own, self. And I don't think that that is a deep fault of mine, that I am wired that way. I think that that is human nature, and that I can, in the moment, maybe reflect on that, and is that really the best thing? And maybe steer my course a little bit differently. It's nice to have more space. It's nice to not have to run away when we see suffering.
Right, when we see suffering. But when we're in a situation where we're clearly not going to get help, it is wise to walk away.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We recognizing our suffering doesn't mean that we go up to the hot stove and put our hand on it, which is my maybe foolish interpretation of what the Buddha tried to do with all his practices before his enlightenment of knowing suffering by abstaining from food, by not breathing for long periods of time, by mortifying the flesh. And he said that's not the way.
Right. I didn't think God was impressed by all of those early monks who put stones in their shoes and wore a hair shirt. How is this going to influence God?
Yeah.
It's inflicting needless suffering on ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. So I see my come back to what you said, Lisa. I see my great granddaughter, and she's running around, and she is so full of joy, and so full of the new experiences that she has, and her, innocent partaking of it, and it's like a big feast for her, and there's no guile, there's no pretense, there's no. And then when there's a dog that is aggressive, she's afraid, and she cries, and she gets frightened, and that's fully so too. But when we grow up, we have comments to ourselves about, show my fear for this dog, and I shouldn't go and make myself crazy in joy either. And we get to be serious, or we get to be me, my persona, the role that I play, and part of that role that we play is to impress one another. And say, I think you really have it together, or you're really this or that.
Or else just to comfort yourself and say, ain't no dog gonna hurt me.
Yeah.
I'm friends to dogs, You tell yourself that, make yourself feel safe.
Yeah.
We talked about that. Carry a fire extinguisher on your hip.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Frank.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sweet, thank you. Now, is this the child of
The grandson that you...
of the good twin, or is it the evil twin?
Oh, I can't tell them apart.
Not anymore.
I have twins too because I am Gemini.
You're Gemini, okay.
I have a good and an evil.
I have to go to have a medical procedure or something.
All right. Be well. Thank you. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so glad I caught that on the tape.